Okay. Ah, that works better. I guess my noise reduction is reducing the noise. That's actually pretty clever. Well, well implemented noise reduction in OBS Studio. Cool. Hi, welcome to the stream. I'm Mike. I'm writing a book for Nano. Presumably, you're joining me. Although, given that nobody is viewing the stream at the moment, you're joining me after the fact, either on Twitch or on YouTube. Yeah, so a bit late today. I was planning to start about an hour ago, but I had to change out the battery in my wife's smartphone because mobile phone batteries aren't supposed to be all puffy and bubbly like this. So I just glued the back on a moment ago. It is curing over there and should be ready to go soon. But this book isn't going to write itself, is it? No, it's not. So I should do that writing thing. I gotta be honest, I'm not really feeling it today for the writing. A bit congested and tired and nah. Maybe coffee will help. Coffee always helps, right? Can't help thinking that there's something I'm supposed to be doing with this. But there's not. There's really not. I could do a chat test, but I'm pretty sure the chat's working. Alright. Oh yeah, I also had to do a quick and dirty fix on my glasses today. Don't know if you can see that. There we go. Focus. Notice that one of my... Oh, there we go. I had to create a new bridge pad for my glasses out of Blue Tack, because that's what I had handy. I'll head over to the glasses shop later and have it repaired, but just noticed that today. Yesterday, the day before, I noticed my nose had a bit of a mark on it, like a pretty significant mark for my glasses, which I don't normally get. And I was confused by that. And then as I was working on that cell phone, I noticed that my glasses were actually causing me pain. They were hurting my nose. So took a quick look, and lo and behold, I was missing a pad. So it was just the little pokey bit resting on my nose, which hurts. So anyway, yeah, I'm sleepy. All right, what was I doing last time? Oh, decisions. So, same decision I made last time, I have to make again. Do I go back and fill out some things, some previous scenes, or do I write new stuff? See, I went and I ended at the end of a scene yesterday. I didn't start a new scene. And normally I don't like doing that, because if I end in the middle of a scene with stuff happening, it's usually easier for me to get back into it. I don't have to try and... Any creative person at least any creative person who's reasonably aware of their process, dropping stuff, will tell you that The hardest part about being creative is starting. The starting of things is what causes people the problems more often than not. The actual writing, once you're into it and you're writing, the words tend to come. If you're into your story and you're feeling, I don't know, I don't want to use words like inspired or motivated, but if you're interested in your story and you have a pretty good handle on your characters and what you want to happen, if you're on top of your game anyway, once you get writing, it just flows. It's a nice feeling. It doesn't always happen that way, but for some of us, it almost never happens that way, but whatever. The starting, though, is the problem. Procrastination is the bugbear for most of us. As you can tell by the way that I'm yakking at you instead of actually getting into my writing, which is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm so far behind on this nano thing. I'm unlikely to finish at this point, just mostly because I don't have the time that I would need to put into it to hit 50K now. I'm sitting at just over 7,000 halfway through. Let me take a look here. That's not what I wanted to do. Projects. Oh, hold on though. Project settings. Can I choose a font? I would like to choose a font. Where do I choose a font? Well, it's saying Times New Roman is my default. Main text formatting. Yeah, all right. Yeah. What is that? That's Sitka. And now, there's nothing wrong with Sitka, but Times New Yorker. Yeah, that's a bit kitschy. That's actually that's the one of the fonts I used on my cover that I made the other day. Times New Roman. Let's select all of that. Times New Roman. I do like Times New Roman. Now, what if I go to project settings, formatting? Okay, so it's Scrivener's options that I need to worry about. All right. I guess I'll do that. Project stats. 7,442 words at the halfway mark. Now, I started 5 days late. And I've been averaging about 1,000 words a day. I mean, not averaging 1,000 words. Close enough. 1,000 words a day. So that's 5,000, 12,000, 24. So half a nano. 7,442 words is already more than I've ever done in a NaNoWriMo before. I think I've gotten up to 6,000 in some previous years. I always just sort of lose focus and wander off and get busy with other things. This year will be different. All right, where do we find... File options. There we go. All right. I want default text to be... main editor. Colors. Don't care about colors. I'm not changing colors. Where do I set my... general interface? GUI font. Just gonna click on everything. See what's there. You know what? I was gonna look it up later, but I might as well do it now. Set default Why is everything is a YouTube video these days? All right. All right. Editing, then formatting. Really? Oh, there we go. Editing, then formatting. Because why wouldn't it be there? All right. Oh, yeah, you can't... sorry, I forgot. You can't see the pop-up window, so you can't see the little menu options that I'm changing at the moment. Never mind. It's all good. Da, da, da. I don't want Sitka text. I want Times New Roman. 12-point regular. Left aligned. Yes. Apply. Okay. Now, do this. No, that's not going to work. That will. No, it's not what I wanted to do. There. Select all. And Times New Roman. There we go. Yeah. I kind of do want to go back and fill some things in. I don't want... I feel like I'm pushing forward too quickly with this story and not spending the time that I should. The life of a writer, huh? Sitting around in your big fuzzy jammies going, grunting at yourself. Being confused about words on a screen. All right. Okay, I feel like I need to deal more with this stuff. All right. Comma there. Oh, okay. I realized that I had actually started to expand on that and then must have got distracted and didn't come back to it. So let's do that. Trying to quell the desire to lash out, trying to focus instead on his previous train of thought. Watch, I'll find out that my nose is allergic to blue tack and I'll end up with a giant rash on my face or something. That would figure. Rather than dwell on his deteriorating mental state, thinking about it seemed to make it worse. He attempted to focus instead on his previous train of thought. This was the seventh victim in 2 weeks. Something needed to change. The buzzing was louder. Most of them had been homeless, and a few had been from out of town. None of them had been wealthy. Torchlight flickered and danced, creating more shadows than it dispelled. It's a bit cliche, but oh well. But since when did that make their lives less valuable? Alright. I need to... Hey, silent author, howdy howdy. Welcome to the show. I've decided today to go back and fill out some stuff and expand some previous scenes rather than moving on to new stuff. No? Define well. Did you write some things? And keep in mind if... Ah. Yeah. Yeah. Tough decisions are basically what we do, really. And then describe the results of those tough decisions. Look, writing is hard. There's no way around it. Writing is difficult. If it were easy, everyone would do it, right? Everyone's got a story. As soon as you tell people you're a writer, it's nothing but, oh, I have a story idea for you. Oh, you should write this story. Writing is hard. Okay. I also like to quote Hemingway. It probably wasn't even Hemingway who said it, but whatever. It fits with his mystique, his reputation. So the first draft of everything is shit. It is. Everything, the first version of everything is quite often terrible. This is something I struggle with. I'm not sure about you, but I struggle with this because I always want it to be good when it comes out, right? So I'll spend way more time than I need to working on something that might not even make it into the final story anyway. I might end up changing something and whatever. Kill the parents of a loving couple to make their daughter become an orphan and become a supervillain. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, it is what it is. The the price of extraordinary characters is extraordinary circumstances. So, if you want a character to be a supervillain, for example, then they'll have had to have had something super terrible happen to them, right? Yeah, yeah. No, I relate. I relate. I relate. There's a novel that I shelved for a bit. I need to rework a few things before I continue it. Uh, yeah, yeah. Killing off your two favorite characters. But well, I guess here's the what I would suggest is that if the story needs this child of theirs to become a supervillain, then it's probably not their story anyway, it's her story. Um if they were your favorite characters in the story, then you might be writing the wrong story for you at the moment. Yeah, the story needs it, sure. But then what I'm saying is that the story you think you're writing isn't always the story you're actually writing. So if those two characters were your favorite characters, there's a pretty good chance that you thought you were writing their story, but then it turns out you're not. Yeah, I hugs and stuff, virtual hugs. They're there. Um, yeah, I sound flip, and I don't mean to be. I don't mean to be so lighthearted about that. It fictional characters are no less real for the fact that they don't exist in the world. They exist in our internal worlds. And yeah, what happens to them matters to us. As it, the I guess the silver lining to the cloud is that if the characters matter that much to you, they'll almost certainly matter that much to people who read your story. And if you don't care about your characters, then no one else will either. So that's part of what makes writing hard is that we're emotionally invested in stuff. Um, in much the same way as with the death of someone who exists in the real world, you'll come to terms with it. You'll cope. You'll be you'll achieve peace with it, I guess, eventually. But the great thing about it is that you could, as a side project, or as you could write another story that is their story. You know, how they met, their earlier life, what they went through, all that stuff. Even if you never publish it, it could be cathartic, make you feel better about stuff, allow you to spend more time with them, that kind of thing. So I have a novel that I was working on. It was my NaNoWriMo project. It's 3 or 4 years in a row. Never got very far on it, and I realized that the reason I never got very far on it was because it was entirely too derivative of a couple of other stories that someone else had already written. It was meant to be sort of a riff on Through the Looking Glass, so the Alice in Wonderland thing. The main character's name is Elise. Takes place in sort of a surreal fantasy landscape that's quite reminiscent of Wonderland in some ways. And that was emotionally rough. Just thinking about that story is emotionally rough. The character Elise is dying she's in a coma and she's dying. Her mind is slowly shutting down. Yeah, Martin is known for killing his characters off. Martin, I've unlike a lot of people, I've actually read quite a lot of Martin's earlier stuff as well. The Wildcard series in particular, I quite enjoyed. And Martin doesn't kill off his characters just to kill off his characters. What Martin does is he treats all of his characters as individuals with agency, and he treats the setting and the environment as realistically as possible. So, like for instance, in the Wildcard series, there's this Wildcard virus that mutates humanity sometimes in beneficial and awesome ways, quite often in horror. It just kills most people, and then a lot of people end up deformed and crippled and horribly disfigured by this virus. And some people just are immune, don't have any effects. But even with the superpowers that result from in 1% of people from this virus, they have to be consistent with the laws of physics in the universe. So one of the example that comes to mind, one of the characters in the series is able to turn himself invisible. But if he turns his eyes invisible, then his eyes can't interact with light, which means he can't see. So if he is totally invisible, he's blind. If he wants to be able to see, he has to leave his eyes, or part of his eyes anyway, visible. So all you see is these two little eye stalks floating around in the air. So his thing is like consequences. So logical consequences, logical consistency. So if you have all of your characters being individuals with agency, and they all have their own goals and they're striving, and they all tend to lack morals and an ethical standing, there's going to be a lot of people getting killed by a lot of other people. So it's not that he's killing off people, they're going to hate this. He's not twisting the screws on his readers necessarily. I don't think. I think he's just following through the logical consequences of the story he's set up. So, the issue with the story I was talking about is that it's emotionally draining to even like think about what's happening in that story for me. It's about a little girl whose brain is shutting down. She was hit by a car. She's in a coma. And the world that she's inhabiting in this story is her own internal mindscape, but she's got spotty amnesia and the world is shutting down, which means parts of it are dying. But the way that I had envisioned the world dying was way too close to the never-ending story, the nothing. So I'm going to have to revamp the whole thing and rethink my way through how I want to write that story. But no, I relate to your grief, and you have my sympathy. As far as it goes, we've all been there. All of us who write stories or read stories for that matter, we've all been there. We've all grieved a fictional character. Like I said the other day, when I got to that particular part of the Fellowship of the Ring, when they're in Moria and Gandalf falls, I was inconsolable for weeks. I was in a huge funk. So I understand. I understand. There's no way around it, though. If you want to write good stories, you have to go where the story goes. You can't shy away. That's what art is. That's what artists do. We don't shy away from the things that other people would prefer not to think about. It serves a purpose in society, in culture, in humanity. It's just how some of us are wired, I guess. We can't look away from those things. Doesn't mean we suffer any less. So, you will be okay. You'll get through it, and you'll find that, well, hopefully you'll find that it was worthwhile, that the story benefits from it. The other thing is that, well, you might find that this supervillain character doesn't work as a supervillain, and you can basically go back and undo what you've just done. That won't undo the feelings you had and the suffering you went through and the grieving and the whatever, but nothing's permanent. Not in fiction land. Maybe they faked their own deaths. Maybe they're not really dead. Hard to say. Yeah, you could have them. You could have them not actually dead. That could be a big reveal at the end of your supervillain story arc, when she finds out that all of the havoc she's wreaked, all of the destruction, all of the pain and suffering she's inflicted on the world was completely unnecessary. There you go. I love when that happens. You're annoyed by something in your story, and then you come up with a way around it. Speaking of, all right. I'm gonna add some ellipses, some dots. I suppose technically I should have 3. I like to use 2 for these little interrupty. Yeah, no, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Oh, it's gonna... whatever. It treats an ellipse as a thing. Yeah, which will help with spell checking and stuff. All right. No need to invent my own punctuation, I guess. Okay, so this girl's going to be 3 people in one, and 2 of those people are her parents? Okay. That might just drive her insane, yeah? There you go. We got little sneaky devil going on there. Yeah. And this is what writing is about. Writing your way out of the corners you wrote yourself into. All right. Kind of time, 20 minutes. For some reason, I always end up looking at my watch at around 11:40 and thinking I gotta do a sprint or gotta get a bunch of writing done. Now, Silent Author 1942, you, if I remember correctly, are not really a plotter. Or maybe I'm misremembering. Oh no, we didn't really talk about we've never talked about your process much. Do you plan out your stories in advance and outline like I do with my outline up there? I've got all my I can't, my hand doesn't go up that high on the screen. I've got all my scenes for my whole story. Not a plotter. Yeah, that's what I figured. I don't usually end up writing myself into corners because I've already mapped out the whole building before I walk through the door. I occasionally renovate a room or two. I might knock down a wall or paint something a completely different color, but the bones of the building are still the same. The bones of the story are still the same. So people who pants their way through a story often find themselves in this kind of a situation where we both do the same things. We just do them with different processes and maybe at different points of the process. Yeah. Everyone plots. Pantsers plot at least a little bit. They have an idea for where their story's going most of the time. Very few people will just come up with a bunch of characters and a starting point and go from there. More common, vastly more common, is something called plot islands, where you have a few beats of your story that you want to get to, and then you just basically write yourself from where you are to the next place, to the next place, to the next place. So you have a goal in mind, and you'll get there eventually. Hopefully, eventually. That's sort of, in my experience, that's the most common form of pantsing. Plotted chapter 1. I don't know if you would call that plotting chapter 1. You outlined chapter 1, possibly, but plotting. When it might just be my definition of the word or the way that I use it. But when I'm thinking about plotting, I'm thinking about the whole story, or at least a significant part of the story, not just one piece of action. But I guess if you've got multiple things happening in a chapter, that could be plotting as well. Plotting and outlining are very similar in my mind, but for me, outlining is, you could outline a scene, for example, but I wouldn't say that I'm plotting out a scene. Hard to say. This is one of the difficulties in talking about writing, or oh no, you might. I mean, as I say, this is one of the difficult things about talking about writing, is that there's so much variation in the terms people use and how they use the same terms quite often. There's very little consistency in the jargon, in the terms we use. So plotting out a story, plotting to me is when you determine the plot of a story, which is the set of everything that will happen in the story. That's the plot of a story. Now, to be a plot, and this is sort of my definition, how I think of things. To be a plot, it has to have multiple events. And so a scene, for example, I define a scene, and I think it's a fairly common definition. A scene is everything that happens in one place at one time in your story. So as soon as you change from one place to another, it's a new scene. As soon as you change from one time to another time, so like 2 hours later, it's a new scene. It might be in the same place, but it's a new scene. So anytime in a TV show or a movie, you'd have a little fade to black or a change in the situation that the story is in. That's a scene change. So a scene being stuck in one place and one time, you wouldn't really plot out a scene. I mean, you could have more than one thing happening in a scene, so I guess you could do that. You could have more than one thing happening in a chapter, certainly. You might have several scenes in a chapter. You could plot out a chapter. Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, no, I take it back. I rescind my criticism. When I think of plotting, I generally think of the whole story, but that doesn't mean that's how everyone works. So yes, you plotted out chapter 1. Okay. Decided what was going to happen and in what order. That's plotting. Okay, fair enough. Nope. Yeah, I know. I talked myself around to your point of view on that. The issue was that when I think of plotting, I think of the whole story. And so I kind of define plotting in those terms. But that's not really a sensible way of defining the word plotting. Plotting is just deciding what the plot is. And smaller pieces of a story have plot. So you can plot out a smaller piece of a story as well. No issue. So you plotted out chapter 1. Okay. I assume you have ideas for sort of where you want to get to in the story for some other parts in the future. Even a loose general idea of what you want your story to look like at different parts. Some things that you want to happen later in the story. So that would be what I would call plot islands. Yeah. So you're an explorer, like in Moana. Going from island to island. Ah, time travel. Oh, that does my head in when I try and make that work. What software do you use when you're writing Silent Author? Do you use Scrivener like me? Do you use Word or Pages or OpenOffice or something? I ask because Scrivener, Google Docs, right? You told me that. Because sharing, or was that Bobicus that uses Google Docs as well? Do both of you use? Oh. Someone mentioned they use Google Docs because sharing their writing is important. That was you? I forget. I'm a very forgetful middle-aged dude. Yeah, I think that was you. At any rate, Scrivener has there's another program called is it Aeon Timeline or Eon Timeline that works quite well with Scrivener. It's got good integration with Scrivener. It's a timeline program, as the name implies. So you could set up your timeline for a fairly complicated plot in Eon Timeline, and then have that reflected in your. It links to your scenes and chapters in Scrivener. So when you move something around in your timeline, that's reflected by moving your scenes around in Scrivener. I haven't worked with it very much because most of my timelines aren't that complicated. But for a time travel related story, you might you might need to keep track of things a bit more carefully. Generally, again, it's pantsers who have trouble with continuity. Things happening at the wrong times and stuff because they haven't planned it out before they started writing. And so for me, if I have something happening too soon or too late or whatever, I can just go in and change my outline up there and move things around there. And it's fairly easy for me to find stuff that way. But for you, because you're working in prose rather than in bullet lists, finding things means reading through everything. So your villain time travels and is the main influence on historical events. Okay. Be funny if you had her traveling back in time to stop somebody else from killing baby Hitler. So are you're going sort of butterfly effect, kind of ripples through the space time continuum, so intentional and unintentional effects on the timeline that the story is set in. Mm, yeah, that gets real complicated. The Yeah, okay. The I tend to fall in line with sort of the George R. Martin school of thought, in that once you set things in motion, you sort of you need to be tied to the logical consequences of what's happened. So anytime I think about writing a time travel related story, and the multiple, multiple timelines end up getting involved, and then we have an infinity of possible timelines, and what timeline are we in, and uh, which which thing of Tolkien's do you agree with? Ah, so you're big into the world building, and then the stories come out of the world you've built. Ah, see, for me, I tend to spend a lot of time doing the world building stuff, but then it invariably ends up as more of a way to avoid getting into the story than, or starting writing, than it is actually getting my ducks all in a row, that kind of thing. I enjoy the world building aspect, for the most part. I do tend to be a big picture person rather than a detail oriented person. So world building the way that Tolkien did it is not my thing at all. Um, I I call myself a plotter, but I have no problem whatsoever just inventing stuff to make the story continue moving along while I'm in the middle of it, like the magical cooktop for making tea the other day, or Frank's housekeeper, who didn't exist before I got to that part of that scene. Yeah, Wells did write the Time Machine, and a few others, as it happens. Visionary man. Yeah, I've actually, one of the projects that I work on, in addition to writing stuff now and doing voice work for clients. I'm narrating audiobook versions of a number of classic novels, and H.G. Wells is on that list a couple of times. Yeah, not a stovetop hat, not a stovepipe. Uh, Although maybe I could have it look like a top hat. That would be cute. The barrel of the device is where the imp goes. Um, yeah, I set out to narrate all of the 14 L. Frank Baum written Oz books, as well as what's on my list. I got a big list of a to do list on the side of my uh, voice booth over here. I've got Lovecraft. I want the picture of Dorian Gray, The Invisible Man, the collected works of Edgar Allan Poe, Bram Stoker's Dracula, The Time Machine, Frankenstein, The Three Musketeers, The Island of Dr. Moreau, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, some Agatha Christie stuff. Got a bunch of stuff. It's not plugged in. It's not electrical. It's magical. It's plugged into the ether. Or maybe there's an imp inside it that gets angry about stuff and lets off heat. Maybe there's two imps in there, and that's where the heat comes from. Ho ho. I don't know. It's magic. Magic box. It does its thing. This is, for me, that's enough. I don't need to figure out how magical devices work. Magic stoves don't need to plug in. They're magic. It's a magic box. It does the thing that you want it to do. No explanation necessary. Huh. Magic. So yeah, I'm not gonna set out to create like a detailed and functional and logically consistent magic system for this world. It's really just not important to the story I want to tell. Yeah, Deus ex machina, right? The God from the machine, the solution to all of our problems. I mean, I do need to, for my own personal reasons and satisfaction, keep it consistent. So if I say this is how this works in one part, it's going to continue to work that way in other parts. And there are some things that I have thought about and put in place for reasons. For instance, the idea that demons aren't, spiritual, religious connected entities, but rather extraplanar beings who generally cross over into our plane mentally or spiritually, as it were, and siphon off emotional energy. That's important. The possibility of crossing over physically, although very rare and quite destructive in terms of the magical energies involved in having that happen, and generally resulting in death of all involved rather than successfully coming over. Well, you see, this is demons can exist. Yes, okay, sure, in the classic sense, in the classic imagining of demons, but these demons aren't demons in that sense. These demons are physical creatures like the rest of us, just from another plane of existence. And they're called demons by the humans and whatever else of my story world, but they're not demons in that sense. So it's an important distinction, a very important distinction later on in the story. And the name demon was chosen for this on purpose for reasons of misleading the audience slightly, even though all of the clues are there for them not to be misled, you see. The description I had of, what was her name again? Clarence, the forensics divination person, demon. She's a demon. She's got the swept back skull with the two wings that form sort of horns, right? So the idea being that the stories that we tell ourselves of demons come from there, but they're a sort of a bastardization of the reality. They're a mythologization. Is that a word? It is now. All right, they're taking something that exists in reality and it becomes a myth as people tell stories about it. Space demons, time demons, cosmic demons, quantum demons, dark energy demons, interdimensional demons, house cleaning demons. No, that's not. No, Frank's housekeeper is not a demon. That's I just realized where that would lead. Yeah, so that's that. I'm out of coffee. I'm kind of out of time as well. Didn't get very much done today. Oh well. I got to go. I started late for phone repair reasons today, and I think I was thinking I might go late as well, but I think I'm going to have to end on time and grab a bite to eat for lunch and get going on some client work this afternoon. So, okay, well, you, silent author, need to get going on rehoming your two parental souls. So off you go for that if you have time for that tonight. I'm going to get going. I'll do my sign-off thing. If you're watching on my Twitch videos, hi. Follow me, all that stuff, then you'll be able to watch me live. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like and hit the bell and do all the, all the stuff down there. Yeah. Yeah, okay. See you tomorrow, people. I'm really not good at this stuff. New old friend, but sure, old friend. Or are you somebody that I know from somewhere else? This is something I wondered about. I've got so far two regular chatters on the stream, and I can't shake the feeling that I know possibly both of you from elsewhere, somewhere. Although I know Bobicus and you both said that you found the stream through searching for the writer tag, but I'm not sure I believe you. Anyway, yeah, so if you're watching on Twitch, hi, thanks, blah, blah, blah. Watching on YouTube, do the stuff down there and follow and all that stuff. And I'll see everyone tomorrow. Bye for now.